Before traveling to Scotland, a lot of things I learned about the UK in general were through watching Top Gear, all James Bond movies, and a few Anthony Bourdain episodes. My imagination of the country was it had striking landscapes, erratic weather, lush green grass everywhere, and a strong variation of the English language I might never be able to understand. All this came true, and my imagination was surpassed by the striking beauty that I got to see and experience. It's about time to leave, almost 6:20. I'm one of those people who goes early to places so that I can just relax and not have to, move around and start worrying about being late. Goodbye to my house. I will see you in 3 weeks, and my stuff ready to leave. It's not always that you hear a Kenyan has traveled to the UK, Europe, or the US as a tourist, because the visa application process is borderline humiliating. My first attempt at applying for the visa was rejected, and the second time I had to submit at least 100 sheets of paper with pretty much every detail of my life to prove that I will return to my country. But beyond the politics of all that, the day finally came for me to travel to the UK and leave Kenya for the first time. The only time I have been outside Kenya was to cross the borders to neighboring countries, but I never went deep into the countries to explore. It has always been and is still my goal to travel to each and every African country and explore the world whenever possible. Join me in this video as I take you around Scotland. First, let me start by apologizing if I say any of the names wrong. In my defense, English is not my native language. Also, my perspectives through this trip are influenced by my daily life in Kenya and not having traveled extensively to other countries. Therefore, I might be biased in some ways or not fully understand some situations, but we learn every day. After applying for the visa, it took roughly 9 weeks to get a response because the UK has been experiencing delays with visa processing. This has been caused by the COVID pandemic, among other issues like the Ukraine-Russia war. This meant the wait times were very long, and by the time I got the response, I had less than a week to prepare for the travel. This is after changing flights 2 different times while waiting for the answer. In fairness, for Kenyans who want to travel to the US right now, the wait time is roughly 2 years. So waiting for 9 weeks is just okay. The flight to the UK using British Airways was quite comfortable for the entire 9 hours overnight journey, but I was fatigued when I got to London, where all the fun began. I have to admit, this airport is huge. Like, I was lost I don't know how many times. So the only thing I was doing is looking at the direction where everyone is going and then just walking with them. But there's so many signs, like there's good signs almost all over the place that guide you. So that's a good thing. But still, like at the back of your mind, it's like you keep doubting yourself. You feel like, maybe I'm doing something wrong. But yeah, it's huge. It's very intimidating, especially since this is my first time, in like an international airport. I'm currently chilling at the baggage place before I proceed to London and then, start exploring basically. The UK comprises 4 countries: Scotland, England, Northern Ireland, and Wales. It took me a while to grasp this, and I kept getting confused with the country's orientation. Each country has its own capital city, and each country has its own language similar to mother tongue. But they have mostly died out and only a small few know how to speak them. My destination was Scotland, but with an 8 hours layover, it was only fair that I get to experience London for a bit. I went through the border control and was let through after a series of questions. They say you haven't reached a country until you're past the border control. Finally, it was time to start exploring. I met up with the worst tour guide known to man, my partner, at Heathrow, and we hit the ground running by taking the underground train from Heathrow Airport to Westminster Station. This was my first experience with the underground train station and an excellent introduction to the efficiency of the UK public transport system, which will continue to amaze me throughout this trip. We exited the station and the first sight was Big Ben, which was a perfect welcome to London. We then proceeded to the London Dungeon, where we learnt about the history of London and other parts of the UK through a series of fun interactive showcases, from the tyrant rule of Henry VII, the Great Fire of London in 1666, which burned for 4 days, the plague, and the infamous Jack the Ripper. Unfortunately, phones are not allowed, so I don't have any recordings, but the whole experience is worth it. Edinburgh has an almost similar experience, but that will be reserved for another day. The next stop was the London Eye, one of the most prominent structures in London. It looks good in pictures, but standing next to it is pretty satisfying. The views on the ride are spectacular all through as you catch a glimpse of other famous UK landmarks like the River Thames, the Palace of Westminster, and a beautiful view of the London skyline. We went on to walk around for a bit in the busy streets of London before heading back to the underground to go back to the airport. My takeaway from London, which might not be a popular opinion, was that it felt much like Nairobi, where I come from, but 20 times bigger. The hustle and bustle, tourists, street vendors, and how alive it felt. I wish I could spend more time in London, and I can't wait to go back again and have a deeper feel beyond the town centre. Time was not on our side as we needed to go back to the underground, back to Heathrow, and take another flight to Scotland, where I spent the rest of the time during this trip. To anyone who has been to Kenya, this will be my geographical description of Scotland. Kenya is a big country occupying a space of 500,000 km square, and it has varying landscapes and climates depending on regions. Because of the size of the country, it involves driving for hundreds of kilometers to experience a different environment. I'd compare Scotland to a particular region of Kenya called Kericho, which lies in the Great Rift Valley. Kericho is the top tea producing region in Kenya and the third in producing coffee. The area is hilly with rainy weather most of the year, with a feel of fresh air, several forests, and lush green grass. Now imagine Kericho, but 30 times larger. That will be Scotland. A highlands country with stunning landscapes, lakes or lochs as the Scots call them, and lots of history. I stayed in Scotland for a month, and moving on, I will group the locations according to proximity with the major towns of Scotland and regions. The areas are Dunfermline, North and South Queensferry, Edinburgh, Glasgow, Dundee, and the Scottish Highlands, and a few other areas as a bonus. For most of my stay in Scotland, I was in Dunfermline. What was the former capital city of Scotland up to the 16th century is now a small laid-back town with several spots to visit. First, I was impressed with the several options around where you can go for a morning walk or evening walk or even a run. One of these was walking St. Ninians, a former open-cast mine. It used to be a coal mining location, and once the machines were turned off, the plan was to convert it into an art installation. It would have been Scotland's biggest piece of landscape art, roughly the size of 700 football fields. But despite the art project not being completed, it offers some good nature trails with a view of Loch Etive nearby. Going north of Dunfermline, another cool area to walk is Blairadam, which has several hiking trails through its woodlands, vegetation, and remnants of coal mines. In Dunfermline town, we visited the Dunfermline World War Memorial, which was set up to commemorate those who died during the First World War. Next to it are the Dunfermline Palace and the Abbey ruins, which were built in the 11th century and are one of Scotland's most important cultural sites. Just several meters away, we have the Pitencrieff Park, locally known as the Glen, and it has walking trails and notably the remains of Malcolm's Tower, which dates back to the 10th century, built on top of an outcrop. In Dunfermline town, there's the Dunfermline Carnegie Library and Galleries, which was opened in 1883 with several extensions to increase space to what it is today. There are several showcases of Scottish history, but my most impressive will be the display of what a 1960s home looked like. Heading north of Dunfermline, we have the villages of North and South Queensferry, which have magnificent views of the Forth Road bridges. We visited the North Queensferry Town Pier, designed in 1813, and a significant ferry channel connecting the north and the south. From here, you catch terrific views of the Forth Rail Bridge, which is listed as a UNESCO monument since 2015. The 2.4 kilometers long bridge, elevated at 45 meters above the water level, took 7 years to construct and was opened in 1890. close is the Fourth Road Bridge, which Queen Elizabeth officially opened in 1964, also connecting the South and North Queensferry. At its peak, it reached a capacity of carrying 65,000 vehicles per day and is now a dedicated public transport bridge, with other private cars using the Queensferry crossing. The 2.7 kilometers long bridge cuts across the North Sea and offers spectacular views of the two older bridges. The bridges show the history of Scotland through the eyes of changing infrastructure over the last few centuries. We then went on to walk around the small town of South Queensferry, and from here, the bridges stand prominent, filling the landscape. You can get boat rides from the city to explore further and look at the bridges at the North Sea. Edinburgh has been recognized as the capital city of Scotland since the late 15th century and is currently the second most populous city after Glasgow. It is also the second largest financial centre in the UK after London and the second most visited destination in the UK, thanks to its extensive history and striking architecture. The town has a blend of various architecture styles like the Gothic architecture, classical, ancient Greek and Renaissance styles. Edinburgh City lies on the floor of a volcanic depression that happened millions of years ago. It lies between Arthur's Seat and Calton Hills, which are volcanic rock outcrops. The town has the Old Town and New Town together, being listed as UNESCO World Heritage Sites. There is a lot to explore in Edinburgh, starting with town walks. We visited NQ64, a bar where you can have a drink while playing various arcade games like the Sega and all Nintendo machines. The streets of Edinburgh are full of statues from different centuries commemorating different people over time. A good place to start will probably be one of the most dominant statues, the Scots Monument, with its Gothic architecture. The monument is 60 meters high and was opened in 1844 to commemorate Sir Walter Scott, a novelist. Behind the monument are the East Princess Street Gardens, and you can get views of Edinburgh Castle from here. I couldn't resist visiting the Scottish National Gallery. I think museums and art galleries are the perfect places to visit first in a new location to understand an area's history, culture and landscape. I then visited the St. Giles Cathedral in the old town of Edinburgh. With its Gothic-style architecture, its construction began in the 14th century and has been operational since then. The interior architecture is impressive, with the most outstanding stained glass I have ever seen. Next was to take a walk along Victoria Street, which is the most photographed street in Edinburgh. It's a busy alley, gently carved with colorful storefronts. From here, you can proceed to the terrace to view the street from above. Next was a short walk to the Edinburgh Castle, situated on top of a cliff, which can be viewed from almost anywhere in Edinburgh town. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to go in since tickets are only done online and I have to book in advance, but this is definitely on the next bucket list. The castle stands on Castle Rock and turned into a military outpost in the 17th century. Every day at 1 p.m, they shoot a cannon gun, which has been a tradition since 1861, and it would be nice to see. One advantage of walking in Edinburgh is that most locations are not far from each other, and therefore it's possible to walk to most of the sites. Next up was walking along Grassmarket to have a different perspective of Edinburgh Castle. Grassmarket is a street with several shops along it. This has been the case since the 14th century, where it was referred to as the area with new buildings under the castle. Another impressive street to walk is Princess Street, which separates the old and new town parts of Edinburgh. The street stretches for 1.2 kilometers and is the leading shopping street in the town. Other famous streets will be the Royal Mile, which comprises of 5 streets: the Castle Hill, Lawn Market, High Street, Canongate and Abbey Strand. Along these streets are most of the famous landmarks in Edinburgh town. Next was visiting the National Museum of Scotland along Chambers Street, which was first opened in 1866. It has undergone several renovations since then, which has increased showcasing collection. These museums showcases are diverse with different items from around the world and an impressive science section. Once done with the streets, it was time to have a view of Edinburgh town from a higher perspective. These involved climbing 140 steps up Jacob's Ladder, which cut through the volcanic rock of Calton Hill. Calton Hill formed through volcanic activities over 300 million years ago, and the rock formation is similar to Arthur's Seat. It was made a public park in 1724, and it has a few monuments like the City Observatory, National Monument, and Parliament Cane. Its highest point is 100 meters, offering all-round views of Edinburgh. The National Monument is impressive with its late Roman architecture. It was built in 1826 to be a memorial for fallen Scottish soldiers and sailors who died fighting in the Napoleonic Wars. But the project ran out of funds and has remained unfinished since 1829. Heading to the outskirts of Edinburgh town, I visited the St. Mary's Cathedral Church, which was built in 1874 and is currently part of Edinburgh's World Heritage Site. The interior is very impressive. Further down, there is Dean Village, which is over 800 years old with Leith River flowing through it. Dean Village was a popular grain milling area before modernization led to its decline, with other mills opening in other areas. Another location slightly out of Edinburgh town is Holyrood Park. It was first established in the 1100s as a royal hunting ground, and close to it is the Holyrood Palace, which recently was where Queen Elizabeth's coffin was placed before being taken to London. Holyrood Park also contains popular archaeological features like the Arthur's Seat, the Radical Road, St. Anthony's Chapel, Duddingstone Loch, among others. One activity that is a must to do is hiking up Arthur's Seat to catch panoramic views of Edinburgh town. The hike up is easy for any relatively fit person, including kids. On your way up, the ruins of St. Anthony's Chapel can be seen, dating back to the 15th century. Up Arthur's Seat is the best view of Edinburgh town, and you can see as far as the North Sea bridges. Visiting and exploring the whole of Edinburgh town can be spread over 2 or 3 days, since there's a lot more to view, like the Royal Yacht Britannica, Camera Obscura World of Illusions Museum, and Scottish National Gallery of Modern Arts, among others. While exploring Edinburgh, we did visit some interesting restaurants. Chez Jules Bistro is located in Edinburgh town and offers classic French meals. I tried frog legs and other things I can't even pronounce, which was interesting. The taste of frog legs reminded me of the saying that all meats outside beef and seafood are just a variation of chicken. Another interesting restaurant we visited was Knight's Cave, which offers Kenyan meals and other African cuisines. The food was very well done and they did remind me of home. We also visited Fazenda, Rodizio Bar and Grill for a taste of South American foods. We had all-you-can-eat meat, which out of the 14 different types of meat they offer, I think I lost count at 9 and was full by the 10th serving of meat. Before moving on to Glasgow, 2 other points of interest in the outskirts of Edinburgh will be the Falkirk Wheel, an impressive engineering marvel. The Falkirk Wheel is a rotating boat lift that connects the Forth and Clyde Canal with the Union Canal. The wheels lift a boat 24 meters above the ground, and the expedition is roughly an hour long. The second point of interest close to Falkirk Wheel is the kelpies, a park with 20 meters high horse head sculptures. The sculptures, made of steel, stand next to the canals, and they have won several awards for their design. Glasgow is the most popular city in Scotland and is just as impressive as Edinburgh. Unlike Edinburgh, which has a lot of architectural history, Glasgow can be said to be more modern when it comes to architecture. We took the train to Glasgow ready to explore, and first was the impressive George Square. There are several seats where you can chill and feed the many pigeon birds, and also where a monument of Sir Walter Scott monument stands. Next to it is the Glasgow City Chambers with its Victorian architecture. It serves as the headquarters of the Glasgow City Council. Outside the city chambers is a cenotaph, a memorial for the Glaswegians who lost their lives in World War I. Close to the city chambers is the Glasgow Cathedral, a part of Scotland's church. It was formed in the 12th century as a Catholic church, but then became a part of the Protestant church during the Reformation of the 15th century. Along Queen Street is the infamous Duke of Wellington statue erected in 1844 outside the Gallery of Modern Arts. The Gallery of Modern Art Museum is impressive, with different collections of exhibitions from around the world. We then walked to another impressive gallery, the Kelvingrove Art Gallery and Museum. It was opened in 1901 and it has stunning architecture. Inside, there are 22 galleries showcasing art from different parts of the world. The floating heads with other facial expressions in the art gallery remain my favorite. While in Glasgow, we enjoyed some fluffy pancakes and bubble tea from Koko House, Scotland's first Japanese souffle pancake cafe. Later on, we went on to have dinner at Sapporo Teppanyaki, which was quite a treat with how lively it is, with the chefs making the food while you watch. On the outskirts of Glasgow, we hiked the Wangi, a part of Kilpatrick Hills. The Wangi is a popular hiking and biking trail that offers some rock climbing. The terrain starts with grass patches and some sections are muddy. Further ahead, it has 10 meters high rocks that formed during the Ice Age, creating narrow passageways. The hike is beautiful and it's a must-do when you visit Scotland. To the northeast of Edinburgh, Dundee is a coastal town facing the North Sea, and just like most of Scotland, it has a history stretching as far back as the 12th century. It is the fourth largest town in Scotland, and in 2018 was rated as the 5th worldwide hot destination. Along the way to Dundee, we passed Discovery Point and RRS Discovery, a wooden ship constructed in the year 1900. Unfortunately, we didn't see it in detail, but it's worth visiting. We drove up to Dundee Law Hill, the highest point of the city, which sits on a volcanic outcrop. There are impressive views of the town below and surrounding homes with a view of the River Tay joining the North Sea. We then went on to drive to St Andrew's Castle, built in the 14th century for the bishops in the area. The castle is impressive, with underground tunnels constructed by attackers and defenders of the castle during its siege in the 15th century. A short walking distance ahead, there is the St. Andrew's Cathedral, which was the largest and most important church in medieval Scotland. It was built over 150 years and was completed in the year 1318, and it became the seat of religious power until the Reformation period of the 16th century, which was the duration when Protestantism swept over Europe. The walk along the shoreline is beautiful with amazing views of the North Sea. While in St. Andrews, we tried two food joints, the first being Fogan's, where we enjoyed a Sunday roast, a traditional British meal consisting of meat, potatoes, vegetables, gravy, and Yorkshire pudding, which is a savoury batter. Afterwards, we proceeded to Janetta's Galateria, which has been serving gelato since 1908. The interior decor is impressive and they have several options, and you can tell how popular it is based on the queue outside. Saving the best for last, the Scottish Highlands is where the landscapes of Scotland come to life. The drive is breathtaking and you'll be in awe for the entire journey. Away from most of civilization, this is where you have the windows down and your phone ready to take endless pictures. In true Holyrood fashion, we drove through Glen Etive to Loch Etive, trying to recreate the scene from the James Bond movie Skyfall. The landscapes are breathtaking, with the hills around making you feel like a speck in the surrounding. The hills have small streams joining the rivers, and the low clouds form a dramatic landscape. Loch Etive is one of the many lakes around Scotland that offer beautiful views. You will quickly realize why Scottish people are so proud of their tap water. From Loch Etive, we drove further north through Glencoe, which offered the best landscapes I've ever seen in one area. The weather favored us, and the low clouds and peeping sunshine provided the chance for some incredible photo opportunities, which justifies the area being an Instagrammer's paradise. Next, we visited the Still Gorge and waterfall. This was a steep 1 kilometer hike with massive drops on the side. Afterwards, it opens up to an upland meadow, and ahead there is the vast waterfall. After the hike, we visited the Glenfinnan Viaduct and hiked the short distance to the old sleeper trains. The Glenfinnan Viaduct was popularized with the Harry Potter movies and has since been a favorite tourist spot. Most people don't do the hike to the old sleeper train, and I highly recommend it as it offers incredible views of Loch Ness as you walk through the vegetation. One last stop on this day was visiting the old boat of Cowell, also known as the Copperch Shipwreck. The ship was used until 2011 when it was torn from its mooring after a storm and became abandoned. Since then, it has become a tourist attraction. On a clear day from here, it's possible to see Ben Nevis Mountain, the tallest mountain in the UK. It was time for some food to end the day, and we went on to stop at Glencoe Inn, where we had some mussels and fries before retiring to a cool Airbnb in Kinlochleven. On the second day of exploring the Scottish Highlands, we started by walking up Cow Hill to Outlandia. The walk involves a steep climb through a woodland forest. Outlandia is a wooden structure suspended on the edge of a cliff. It can be rented and used as a workspace with incredible views of the surrounding area. Next, it was time to have a feel of Ben Nevis, the tallest mountain in the UK. The weather favored us and we went up the Nevis Range using a gondola. At the top, we did a short walk to the edge of a cliff to catch some breathtaking views of the surroundings. We then went on a scenic ride down some beautiful roads to Eilean Donan Castle. The castle is situated on an island, and it has been featured in several movies and was the Scottish headquarters in the James Bond films. Afterwards, we went on to drive to Loch Ness, but unfortunately we didn't see the Loch Ness monster, which has been hiding since it came to the world's attention in 1933. We then went on to drive through the Cairngorms National Park, which is said to have the finest collections of different landforms outside Arctic Canada. Finally, we drove to the Queensview Visitor Centre viewpoint to catch a view of Loch Tummel, which ended the 2-day exploration of the Scottish Highlands for this trip. We visited other notable locations like Glen Eagles to enjoy a proper British afternoon tea, which I found interesting, trying the different types of tea and pastries. We also hiked Benan Hill, which ended up being my favorite hike of this trip. Benan is part of the Great Trossachs National Reserve, and the summit is 461 meters high. The walk to the top is moderate, covering a distance of 3.6 kilometers. The hill has terrific views of Loch Katrine, Loch Archie and Loch Benasha, creating stunning landscapes from the top. We also walked to North Berwick Bay, and from here along the beach you can see the Bass Rock, a volcanic rock in the sea that is 107 meters tall and home to a large colony of gannets. From here, we drove to Jedburgh, the border point of Scotland and England. The landscape here is terrific, with tiny hills and valleys all around the landscape. This ended my Scotland explorations in a journey that was nothing short of epic. The Scottish weather favoured us the entire time, with mostly sunny days, and I can't wait to go back and explore other towns, and more of the Scottish Highlands and other parts of the UK.